Good evening. We're going to call our meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, March 29th, 2023. This is the Monroe Township Board of Education special meeting. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we have our roll call, I would just like to ask everybody if we could please have a moment of silence in remembrance of those who lost their lives in Nashville in that terrible school shooting tragedy this week. Thank you. I know I speak on behalf of the board when I say that security here in Monroe Township is one of our top priorities. Keeping our students and staff safe every single day is paramount here, and I know that we do everything in our power to ensure that the safety of our students and our staff is taken seriously each day. Ms. Allen, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Alvarez? Here. Ms. Belko? Here. Ms. Bierman?
Here.
Ms. Bora?
Here.
Ms. DePayne?
Here.
Ms. Fabiano? Here. Ms. Ratner?
Here.
Ms. Scott?
Here.
Ms. Kirby?
Here.
Mr. Tofano?
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you.
In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published and electronic notice provided by having the date, time, and place thereof posted March 24th, 2023, at all schools, on the district website, Home News Tribune, Cranberry Press, Asbury Park Press, and filed with the clerk of the municipality.
Thank you. Our next item is a closed session resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves into closed session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10:4-6 through 10:4-21, to discuss the following subjects: matters protected by attorney-client privilege, collective negotiations. Following closed session, action may be taken. The discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move into closed session. Okay, we're going to come back into our public session. Our next item on our agenda is our presentations. We have a presentation this evening by our New Jersey School Boards Association rep, Ms. Patty Reese. I want to welcome Patty here to Monroe. Thank you for taking the time this evening to come out and do your presentation from New Jersey School Boards.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak to the board, just since you have such a large public crowd, which is great. Public involvement is always a positive, always a good thing. As Chrissy said, my name is Patty Reese. I am a field service representative with New Jersey School Boards Association. I've been with the association almost 8 years. Most recently, as a field service rep, I service the school boards in Middlesex, Union, and Hudson counties. Before I was the field service rep, I was a county activities coordinator, and I ran the county meetings, Middlesex County, all for the 11 northern counties. Those county meetings have professional development for board members in those counties. Before I started working with New Jersey School Boards, I served on my local school board for 12 years, right next door in Somerset County, and then I also served one term on my town council. So I have a wealth of background and came to New Jersey School Boards after 12 years of putting to test what my knowledge and everything I gained, you'll see, as you have learned from being a school board member. And I'm hearing a little bit of backfeed. Do I need to come back further? Oh, speak closer, okay. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about the roles and responsibilities of a board member. And I think it's helpful not only for the board to delineate what their role and responsibility is with each other, with the superintendent, with the administration, but it's also helpful to the public because the public doesn't live what you live as a board member, and there are specific guidelines and specific rules that you must follow. And sometimes it can be frustrating to the public when they're asking for something and legally you can't do what they're asking for. And so I think it's helpful for everybody to learn what the roles and responsibilities are. And it works. So for a school board, the power of a school board member is derived from the legislature, not your community. You're elected by your community, but the authority and the authority that you have comes from the legislature. So a board represents Trenton to your community, Trenton being the legislature or the Department of Education, whatever comes from them, is how you present it to your community, and then you're a representative of your community back to Trenton. Board members are state officials empowered by state law to govern public schools at the local level. The board represents your entire community, not just if you were everybody. When you run for election, you have constituencies that support you, but once you're elected, you represent all of your community, all of Monroe Township, and all of your students. Board members are policymakers. The policies that the board provides gives direction to the superintendent and is a basis for decision-making and an imperative action. Well-crafted policies minimize ambiguity between the board and the CSA. And the bylaws section of your policy manual, which is usually in the front, determines how the board governs itself. I see a question. Go ahead.
Is that okay if we ask the questions, or did you want to finish?
Why don't we let her go through
Okay.
the presentation?
All right.
Do you want to do questions at the end?
Yes.
Okay. So just make a note if you have a question, and if there's time, I'll answer them, and if not, feel free to shoot me an email. My contact information is in your packet. The board also acts as visionaries and goal setters. They set the standards for a program of quality instruction. They also ensure that the budget supports that instruction and provides for the professional development of staff if needed for that. And another function of a board member is a communicator, and that's providing, as I've said before, two-way communication. You represent your community to the board and to the district, but you also need to represent the district back to your community. And we go into governance comes from the Greek word meaning to steer a ship. Governance is steering, and that is done by the board. Management is rowing, so that's done by administration. So you steer the ship by setting policy and goals of the district, and then the administration determines how they will achieve those for you. Another way to look at it is that the board looks at things from a high level. They look from up, like a telescope, or I was going to say, or a hot air balloon, from a hot air balloon looking down, or from a telescope looking up. And administration it's the more detailed. They run the day-to-day operations of the district, whereas board members do not. And that's kind of like looking through a microscope. So essentially the board determines the what of the district. You oversee that the schools are well-run, and the what is the policies or the program that you want, or the goals that you would like to achieve, the goals and objectives that many boards set yearly, of what you would like to achieve. You determine what they are, and then the superintendent and the administration determines how they will achieve that, what they need to do to achieve those goals and standards set by the board. Another way to look at it is this question: how many board members does it take to screw in a light bulb? Oh, I got some laughter. And the answer to that is none. It takes no board members to screw in the light bulb. It is up to the board to say that they need light. It is up to the superintendent to decide what kind of light that is needed in the school. And then it is up to the board to approve the purchase of the light bulbs and to evaluate the quality of the light in an ongoing basis. So it takes no board members to screw in a light bulb. You just figure out how to pay for it, essentially. And this is something you will hear over and over again, and is key. The role of a Board of Education is not to run the schools, but to see that they are well run. And this is identified in the Code of Ethics, which all board members must live by. In Tenet D, there are 9 tenets, I believe, and which reads, "I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are well run." And that is what guides what you can and can't do. The functions of a board. The board is a policy maker. They provide guidance through policy development. The board plans. They set clear expectations for success that include a guiding mission and vision, as well as long and short-term goals. The board provides oversight and appraisal. You evaluate the superintendent. You hold them accountable and to monitor the effectiveness of policies and assess student achievement. You hire one employee, and that's the superintendent. The superintendent hires everybody else, or technically, you can't hire anybody unless you have approval, recommendation from the superintendent, but then you hold the superintendent accountable for achieving what it is that you as a board want the district to achieve. And then again, it's the communication. The board provides two-way communication between the community and the district and back and forth. A board member's authority lies only within the group. As an individual, you have no authority separate, other than, you have no authority as just like any other resident or taxpayer. You only have authority when you're sitting in a legally constituted board meeting with a quorum. So, and it's unlike when I was on my town council. You do have individual authorities. It's unlike that. You do not have authority unless you're sitting with the board. So as individuals, a single board member cannot make decisions for the board, cannot give unilateral direction to the superintendent or any staff members, cannot take actions for the board or speak for the board, both verbally and written, unless authorized by the board. And being authorized by the board generally means the board has a discussion and there's a vote and they say you can speak or you can do whatever. So governance is a choice. You are elected as an individual, but you must govern as a member of a team. You didn't get to pick the team. You may not even like everyone on the team, but it's your team now, and its wins and losses for children, as it wins and loses for children as a team. If the board succeeds, you succeed. If the board fails, you fail. And then the graphic below gives you a fundamental choice. You can govern as a collection of individuals, each with their own agenda, or you can function as a cohesive, unified group or team working towards a common vision. And quite honestly, the most effective way to govern to impact student achievement is governing as a cohesive unit, as a team. In summary, for the first several slides, the 4 functions of a board member are policy, planning, oversight and appraisal, and two-way communication. Respect the what of what the board determines and the how of how the administration applies the what. The Board of Education is a team sport, and communicate with each other, with the administration, and with the community. That really does lead to the most effective, one available, most effective governance. And we'll go a little bit into what the superintendent's role is. Basically, the superintendent is the implementer-in-chief. They're the chief advisor to the board. They're consultant. They give background information. They provide updates and briefings to the board on emergent issues or anything that requires the board's attention. And they evaluate and assess the policy implementation. As the executive officer, the superintendent actually administers the policies and runs the district. They direct staff members through personnel action, delegation, and supervisory activities. The board does not get involved in that. As the educational leader, you want your superintendent to remain active in professional organizations and keep familiar with current educational ideas and then bring worthwhile ideas to the attention of the board and the community. So the board and superintendent is a collaborative relationship. And we'll go down the graphic. The board should respect the superintendent as a consultant before taking action, recognize the superintendent as the community's educational leader, and do not confuse your role your policy role with that of running the schools. Do not surprise the superintendent. Similarly, the superintendent should keep the board informed at all times. They should effectively and efficiently implement the district's policies and evaluate the results. And they should also recognize the board as the final authority and convey that to the staff. And like the board, the superintendent should not surprise the board with anything. Nothing really works well when you're surprised. So the most effective relationship is the board as the governing body and community representative working together with the superintendent as the chief school administrator and the educational leader to advance student achievement. That's really the most effective way to govern. We'll go into a little bit of board member meeting responsibilities, things that, is kind of like a good rule of thumb that makes for a well-functioning Board of Education, is studying the agenda and the background information. It makes reference to a 12-month planning calendar. That is in your packet. There's a bunch of information in your packet in addition to what's in the slide. Refer all questions or the need for further information to the board, to the committee chair, the board president, or the superintendent before the meeting. And that's done as per what the board's policy is or what their bylaws state or what their past practice is. Some boards allow you to go right to the superintendent, and other boards, their practices, everything goes through the superintendent, goes through the board president. So whatever your board's practice is, it's helpful if you ask those questions ahead of a meeting. It gives everybody the time to answer thoughtfully and give you the information that you feel you need to make your decision. And then always surprise-free meetings. If a board member has received a complaint or is dissatisfied with the agenda, they should call the board president prior to the meeting to try and resolve the problem. And so when you have questions ahead of time, give the responsible party time to prepare and answer. Asking for clarification or additional info before the meeting allows that person, be it the superintendent, the board president, whoever it is, to to develop a thoughtful answer that might not be possible if you ask it on the fly. I mean, this doesn't mean that if you feel that it's an important enough question to ask in public, that, and I've done this when I was a board member, I would get my questions answered ahead of time, and I'd say, I think this is an important question, I'm going to ask this in public. But at least the whoever is answering, the superintendent or the administrator, has the opportunity to give you a thoughtful answer, and then if you ask it in public, they have that thoughtful answer already prepared. Nobody looks good when it's not a thoughtful process. And you want to avoid embarrassment. When a board member is not prepared, they may be caught by surprise, causing needless delay in reaching decisions on the agenda. Some more board member meeting responsibilities. Don't play to the audience. You must work for the welfare of all children in the district, and base your decisions on what is best for the total community rather than a particular area. Your vote should be thoughtful. You must feel reasonably comfortable with your vote. Sometimes that means delaying a decision until for further research. And sometimes it means trusting the judgment of the superintendent or other staff expert. Because keep in mind, remember that they are the educational experts. And if you have a conflict of interest, just recuse yourself on any votes pertaining to that conflict of interest. And then sometimes there's a way that you can ask questions questions come with the territory. You should be asking a lot of questions. That's really, you have some pretty heavy decisions and that you must make. But you are not running the district. So you need to ask the questions in the right way. Keep in mind that your questions should be at the high level and strategic, which is where the board does its work. And ask them in a way, that it says in an optimal manner, but the right time and setting. No gotchas. Ask questions with an inquisitive tone rather than an accusatory tone. You'd be amazed at how the response changes when you're inquisitive. And then take off when you become a board member, and this is hard for, and I remember it being hard when I went on. You need to take off your private sector hat, except that education functions under a different set of rules. Taking action requires lengthy discussion and buy-in from various stakeholders. And no surprises at the board table. We go down blindside fellow board members or administrators with tough, so please do not blindside fellow board members or administrators. Do not grandstand as the member who feels the pain of the audience, because you're all residents, you're all taxpayers, everybody feels the pain when it's there. And do not try to get things done as an individual board member, because it doesn't work. Again, it takes a majority of the board to accomplish anything. The board has one employee, that's the superintendent. All other district staff report to the superintendent. So you hold the superintendent, the board hold the superintendent accountable for things, and then the superintendent holds the staff accountable. Respect the chain of command, and that goes for even if, as well, when members of the public come to you with a concern, refer them back to the chain of command for whatever is appropriate for that issue. The chain of command is in place to make sure that to help get the issue addressed in the most efficient manner. But also remember that as the Board of Education, people can move their issue up the chain of command, and the board should be the court of last resort. So you should let it go through the process before you get in the middle of that. One or two board members cannot direct the superintendent, only the board majority, or only a board majority. As a public official, which a board member is, just, remember that careless and negative remarks now carry a greater weight. What you said as a private citizen is different has a different tone and it has a different weight when you're a board member. Sharing confidential information causes real harm and is a potential ethics violation. Respect the expertise of the superintendent. You are not the educational expert, and this is key to keep in mind at board meetings and when you present yourself as board members. Model the behavior for your students to emulate, because they are watching, and I know there's many here tonight. So it really is beneficial to model that good behavior. So spend your time and energy doing the board's work rather than doing the job of those you hired. And there's a list of things here that really is recommended that you do not. Get involved in the day-to-day operation of the school district, contact staff directly, take on a task that is the job of a staff member, engage in practices outside the chain of command, and make individual requests to the superintendent outside the work of the board. This is a list of 10 important things it started out as a new board member, but really for any board member to remember. Be patient. You were elected you're first elected for a 3-year term. Take advantage of the time to learn. You're only new once. Choose to govern professionally. It will determine your legacy. And be a systems thinker. Connect the dots. Have a strategic focus. Understand and be proud of the awesome responsibility of setting the direction for the district. Always do your homework. You cannot be part of something you don't understand. Build trust with your board, with your district, with your community. Be trustworthy. Contribute to creating a positive, powerful board culture, and that involves in understanding how the board works. Represent the needs of all your community, not just a part. Be a leader on the board, in the district, and in your community. And finally, always remember you and your board are modeling the ethical and moral standards you expect the children in your district to emulate. All right, just a few questions about whether it's oversight or overstepping. Believing the district, the first one talks about believing a board member who was a CPA identifies several line items in the budget that could yield savings for the district. He compiles a report and shares it at the next board meeting for consideration. And the question is that oversight or overstepping? And I would say that it's overstepping. If the board member feels strongly about those issues, you should either present it to the, whatever your board culture calls for, either the chair of the finance committee for it to have a discussion, or through the board president and the business administrator to get those questions asked. But bringing it up at a board meeting is definitely overstepping. And the next one has the high school principal updates the board at a meeting on the school's remote learning plan. A member asked the principal how the plan is addressing the school's widening social, racial, and socioeconomic academic gap. And that is really, that's oversight. You're asking the question at a board meeting, and it's a reasonable question to ask. The principal may not have the answer for you in that moment because he or she may need to accumulate more data to give you a reasonable answer, and give them that time. A board member believes the district has not been proactive in responding to a recent decline in enrollment. The member contacted the superintendent and requested a detailed staffing analysis report to be created and shared with the board, and that is overstepping. That is not, if every board member asked for a report like that, your administration would never be able to run the district. It would just take them out of it. And if you have those concerns, take it to a committee meeting where generally you can get more in-depth in topics. A school district is planning a capital project that includes a synthetic multipurpose field. One member is opposed, believing the field poses serious health and environmental risks. The member uses social media to share information on the issue and links an article with the comment, "Don't be fooled or misled. Toxic turf is hazardous to your health," and that is overstepping. That is going outside your role as a board member and potentially an ethics violation. The SEC does look at your social media in recent advisory opinions, so just be wary of what you do. And finally, governance is a choice. You can, and with the quote to end, effective governance requires that adults on behalf of their children, of the children they serve, find avenues of agreement so that they can govern the district in an effective manner. And, that concludes. If anybody had, let me just briefly go through what's in your packet so that and if you need more, I can send more. We have for your, not to read now, but in your leisure, 8 traits of an effective school board member, something called setting the stage, which is the role of the board and the administrative team, a paper that talks about the superintendent roles, the board roles, the code of ethics. It's always good to, since that is what you're legislated by, it's always good to have a copy of that. And then the board 12-month agenda planning calendar for your reference, as well as a brochure that talks about who does what in public school governance. There is a copy of this on our website, but that's always helpful information. So at that point, Chrissy, it's up to you.
Yeah, if I want to open it up to our board members. If you have any questions, Mr. Payne?
Yeah. Hi, Patty. Thank you for coming tonight.
Use your microphone, Cal. Thank you.
Patty, thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate your time. I have a question about doing the superintendent's evaluation. I'm only here 3 months. Do I have to do her evaluation? I don't know her that well till I feel to give her, you know, the right evaluation. Are we supposed to do it even if you're new?
You should do it, but you can only really evaluate for the time that you've been on the board. Right, you can't go back. Everybody who's been on the board for a full year can go back the full year to evaluate their performance. But you should. It's helpful. And I know you have some conflicted members who can't participate. But yours would clearly only be for the time since January.
And what would happen if I didn't do it?
I'm sorry?
What would happen if I didn't do it? Nothing.
No, I mean, if the board, there's consequences if the board doesn't do it. There isn't consequences if individual board members, but it's a majority document, so it's helpful. You really need a majority to move it forward. You know, there's legislatively there's a July 1st deadline that must be done. If not, you lose points on your next QSAC evaluation.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Ratner?
Thank you, and I just wanted to thank you for coming. The paper that you had given here, which has the programs, unless it says fee-based, those are programs that are included with the membership that we pay for NJSBA, is that correct? Because I see there's a lot of other programs on here that look wonderful, community engagement, social emotional learning, things like that. So
yes, there's. I did put in another brochure that lists many of the programs that we do, but we also tailor-make something. If you have a specific issue or concern you'd like to address, we also tailor that, and that is all included in your dues. That's not anything extra.
Okay, wonderful. So my two questions. The first one, you had mentioned the policy manual. Being in the digital age, we weren't given like an actual manual. It is online. However, it looks like there's a bit of confusion for me. I was just looking at it when you had brought it up regarding what's a bylaw versus a policy versus a regulation, because some of them say bylaws, but it's under the policy part of the manual. And so I was wondering if there's a difference between specifically bylaws and policy. And then my second question, just to ask them together, I know you had briefly mentioned social media, which has obviously become a very big thing in our world today. And I know there have been advisory opinions and things of that nature, but I know as people, we have our First Amendment rights. At the same time, I know that there's certain things we cannot say or that we have to use the disclosure statement. And so I was wondering if that's something you can just briefly sort of share, like when to use the disclosure, when to not say anything, when we're allowed to say something without going into a training of its own.
Right. So the question regarding, so I want to make sure I understand what your question is, regarding your First Amendment rights as an American, compared to what you can and can't say here as a board member. You never lose your First Amendment rights, but you always have to be wary or be aware of the additional weight things carry when you say it as a board member, because the community knows you're a board member. And so, and the community assumes that because you're a board member, you have more access to more information. So your comments carry a different weight than they did when you were a private citizen. And it's not that you can't say them, but you are also bound by law and by the School Ethics Act. And so that does mandate not what you can and can't say, but there are repercussions. And for what you say, and they are, if you go on to the School Ethics Commission website, they list their advisory opinions, and there's been several recently regarding social media and comments and different aspects. And just for clarification, the advisory opinions are something that only board members can ask for, and they're asking, if I did this, would it be an ethics violation? And the commission is very fact-specific. So when you read them, but there's been several recently that have come out regarding comments in social media and different things like that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, definitely. And I know, I had attended a training where it mentions the disclosure is, when in doubt, you should use it, but still it doesn't necessarily protect you. And then if you could just, the policies versus bylaws, is there, I guess, versus regulations as well? I'm sort of familiar with the policy regulation difference, but then I know you had mentioned the bylaws as well.
I mean, the regulations are the specific ways you're going to adapt the policy. I mean, everything, and they can change because sometimes issues change, sometimes the facts change. So that can change, and there's a process for adopting new bylaws. The regulations are, some boards adopt the regulations. They don't have to be. It's not a board document. It's an administrative document, but some boards do both. And so, I don't know what it is that you do. The bylaws are generally the first part of your policy manual, and they really refer to how the board governs itself.
Okay. So it is like a policy, part of the policy, it's just a separate section.
Yeah, it's part of it should be part of the policy manual. Yes, the bylaws.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Belka?
Yes, can you explain what are the board's responsibilities of questions that come up during public comment?
And I did pull out your public comment section. I believe your policy on your board meeting, Sally, that all questions go to the chair or who's ever chairing, which is your president, and so they can either direct it to somebody to answer, they can answer, but most because they don't have, you may not have all the information that you need to answer that. Many times you'll take the information and let the member of the public know that somebody may contact them with the information they're seeking in whatever seems a reasonable amount of time. But sometimes to answer questions on the fly at a board meeting, it may not be giving the full and accurate answer that you want to do, that you as a board want to give to the community. And so that is why many boards do not answer questions in the moment.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Does anybody else have any other questions? No? All right, I don't think we have any more questions. I want to thank you. Did you, Dr. Megan? Oh, I want to thank you very much for coming out and taking the time this evening to meet our board. We welcome you here. We thank you for coming. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. And board members know that if you have any questions, that you could reach out to Ms. Reese anytime.
Yep. And as I said, my contact information's in the brochure.
Thank you.
Or on the website. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next item on the agenda is our public forum. Anybody wishing to address the board may do so. You have 4 minutes. Come to the podium and state your name and your municipality.
Brian Fabiano, Monroe, New Jersey. Less than, I guess, maybe 2 weeks ago, half of these chairs were filled for people who came out in support of Sean Dowling. The board had every intention of moving forward with the changes on Mr. Dowling's position, but with the little opposition that you got, half of these chairs, maybe a quarter of them, you decided to table it. Here we are, fast forward 2 weeks later, and it's back on the agenda. And most of the people sitting here are probably saying, well, why did we all as a public have to go through a training that's for you guys? That seems pretty relevant because half of the things that were discussed are things that you don't even follow on a daily basis. But more importantly, you shoved into this agenda Sean Dowling's position again because you thought the public would be fooled. Oh, they're having a training, don't show up. Well, I guess you're wrong. I guess you're wrong. And the teachers showed up too, because the teachers have an item shoved in the agenda. I don't see many meetings in our history in this town where we had trainings where we put these type of important decisions kind of nicely tucked in. What I'll say is this. We may not change your mind tonight, and you may tell us, oh, you know, Mr. Dowling, he can reapply to the position, and we'll give him a fair shot and all. But we can tell you this. If you move forward with this change, and the residents are not happy, and the students and the parents are not happy with this change, we can't change your decision. But come November, we will vote you out. And so the public knows, the board president, Mrs. Skirby, is up for election this year. Mrs. Belko in the pink is up for election this year, and your board vice president, Mrs. Bierman, is up for election this year. So we will come for you in November. Finally, I'll say this. This board better start respecting the public. And you just heard through the training. You serve us, we don't serve you. So you better start listening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Frank Marchione, 19 Talmadge Drive, Monroe. I'm here tonight to speak up for the student athletes in this school district who currently are being punished for the board's reluctance to hire a football coach. Currently, assistant coaches have stepped up and have been volunteering their time because of the dedication of these coaches with the Falcon football program. Currently, without a head coach, our student athletes, and specifically our rising seniors, are unable to participate in the summer program that is essential to the success of the program and the betterment of these students. By the way, I just found out tonight that we've now missed that window, so these juniors that are going to be seniors will not be able to participate in that. I emailed Mrs. Chanley in reference to the unfilled coaching position 4 weeks ago. However, there's yet to be a head coach named thus far. The response I got from her is summer's still 4 months away. This will be too late, and the damage to the program and these athletes will already be done. My concern is with the current board's vendetta against Mr. Dowling, that this position will go unfilled. We need to put the students of this district ahead of politics. There's absolutely no reason that this position remains unfilled. What are you waiting for? My understanding is that after a specific person was interviewed and found not to be a good fit, the board halted the hiring process. This way, by no means the fault of the athletic director, who also tries to do what is best for our community. In the past 2 years, Mr. Dowling has become an irreplaceable asset to all the sports programs, and his qualifications that were good enough for him to be hired have not changed. If anything, he has gained experience through all the good he has done for this district and admiration of all the parents. How many supervisors can say that? Mr. Dowling made it possible for my daughter, a special needs student of Monroe, to be able to cheer at the varsity basketball games. This experience has been amazing for my daughter, helping her to feel part of the high school community. Her ability to be at these games is something we never could have achieved without Mr. Dowling. Excuse me. The fact that his job is being pulled out from under him is a travesty. This would impact the football program, the cheer program, and every other student athlete currently in the district that is to follow. Keep your politics out of our sports. Do what is best for this community. Leave Mr. Dowling where he is. Thank you.
Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Madam President, board members. So we have this agenda item before us again, as the previous gentleman said.
Can you state your name and
Derek Arts,
municipality?
Monroe Township, New Jersey.
Thank you.
So as your trainer, I took some notes after she was presenting, all right, and it seems that the board's goal, overall goal, is to serve as a unified team serving the best interest of the community. But it's also to carry out the recommendations of the school superintendent. Today we have an agenda item back before us again to abolish the existing position of supervisor of athletics. At last meeting, I spoke up and I asked a question directed to Madam President. She then referred to legal counsel for the board. My question was, are you under any legal guidance to abolish this position? Or could you still achieve the goal that you're trying to achieve by modifying the duties and modifying the title? Your counsel said it could be modified. It does not need to be abolished. So look, you know, I don't play in the world of politics much anymore, but it's quite obvious that someone has a vendetta against the person serving in this current position. His name is Sean Dowling. I did a little bit of an interview over the last week with Mr. Dowling. I have 40 bullet point items in 2 years list of accomplishment, 40 bullet point items of the good that he did to this athletics community in Monroe Township, New Jersey. Here before you tonight, you have members of the public. They're out in force, the teachers are out in force. You have student athletes out here in force in support of Mr. Dowling. I'd like to hear a round of applause. Would you like the position abolished, or would you like it modified? Would we like the position simply modified and retain Mr. Dowling? So I only have about a minute and a half left, but I'll say this. Out of the 40 bullet points, there's some other things on here that show Mr. Dowling's leadership. And Mr. Dowling is a member of the Director of Athletics Association of New Jersey, faculty teaching leadership, does training courses to fellow ADs, and presents numerous workshops. Mr. Dowling has presented numerous workshops at the national level for the NIAAA. That's someone I would like to serve this community, to continue to serve this community. That's a pretty good starting point anyway. But these 40 accomplishments, if anybody were to read these things in 2 years, what he did, it means he hit the ground running. 2 years only. I don't understand why this position is being abolished. But if everybody that's sitting on this board could in good conscience tonight vote in favor of this agenda item, then some part of you is not listening to the public that's here before you tonight, and you're not serving the best interests of this athletics community. You're not doing your proper job. You're not doing your proper duties. You're carrying out your own personal agenda, and that is wrong. So let it be said, with the 30 seconds I have remaining, as the previous gentleman said, come November, there is an election. And I hope everyone that's sitting on this board takes to heart this coming election and understands the words and the phrase, "This will be your Waterloo."
Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Good
I'm Joe
evening.
Costa, 20 Avenue F, Monroe. I'm the Vice President of the Monroe Township Hoops Association. We formed the organization 26 years ago. We've had probably 40,000 kids come through the program since then. Mr. Dowling has been nothing but open arms to our program. He's a tremendous guy. Does a tremendous job for the kids. The kids. That's what it's about. I don't even understand why we're here. The guy's done nothing wrong, done a tremendous job. The kids love him, the parents love him, and the story. That's it. Do your job. Keep his job. It's not that difficult. Why are you making something so easy so difficult? It's nonsensical to me. I'm a simple man. You have a great man. People love him. He's doing a great job. That's it. Boom. It's not the bonus, we say in Italian. That's it. It's over. This is a guy for the job. Okay? And I'll tell you something. I'll run against you guys, and I'll win, but easily I'll win. Okay? You don't want me to be your enemy. You don't want me to be your enemy, trust me. All right? Mr. Dowling deserves the job. He's doing a great job. That's it. That's all you need to know. This is all you need to know. This is nothing. This is nothing. I'll bring 1,400 parents here. I'll call, make 2 phone calls. 1,400 basketball parents. We need you to come to the next Board of Education meeting. Support Mr. Dowling. I guarantee you I'll get him here. No question in my mind. That's all I got to say. Have a good day.
Thank you. Is anybody else wishing to speak?
Hi, my name is Vincent Pucciarelli, Monroe, New Jersey. I don't have a speech prepared. The politics stuff is not something that I like to talk about, but I saw Mr. Dowling today, and I feel bad for that poor man. He's so stressed out based upon all this nonsense that's going on because there's an agenda and somebody's being vindictive. And how convenient is it that Mrs. Chanley's not here? That's just unbelievable. Why can't she show her face? she should have missed whatever she had going on for this very important meeting. I'll tell you something about Mr. Dowling, okay? He came in here, and I met the guy, and I just became fast friends with him because he's a genuine person. He loves the fact of making these kids feel special. As a matter of fact, he started something that was unbelievable. My son, Anton Updale, a couple of the guys were going to college to play lacrosse and basketball and football, and he set up a beautiful thing, okay? He had the gym, he had a big signing day, he had coaches speak about it, and the kids felt special. They felt like, wow, we feel great today, okay? You're gonna make this man walk away because of your own agenda? It's awful. And like Joe Costa said, I also have coached thousands of kids, and bet your bottom dollar that I will call every parent, I will ring every doorbell, and we will have you voted out. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Jason Walters, Monroe Township. I spoke a couple weeks ago. Just a quick reminder, I'm the guy that pretty much coaches every youth team in this town. And I talked a lot about disappointment, and I talked about the North Star of what we look to achieve. And so at the end, I asked for comments, and the room was as quiet as could be. So tonight I'm gonna ask a question, and let's hope I get some answers, is what are the pros and cons to even doing this? A lot of people are questioning, like, why even do this, right? Do you actually have a list of pros and cons on how you make these decisions? Like the why behind them? Do you have an answer for that tonight?
That was an administrative decision. Dr. Lehman, would you like to comment on
That's the answer I expected, actually. So we talked about downhill effect also. This is the downhill effect, children. Right? You can talk about all the administrative stuff that you love to do and you think is important and it feels really good inside. It means nothing to your community. It means nothing to your kids, and it means nothing to our youth program. What means something is when an AD or an acting sports director reaches down and says, how can I help? That's what matters. And so when you make your decision tonight, and if you dare to vote yes to doing this, just know you're destroying the path for a bunch of youth athletes that work their butt off every single day, and a bunch of coaches that volunteer their time, and you're doing the wrong thing. So just remember very clearly what that decision makes. Feel good about your administrative decisions, which mean nothing to the community, and you're destroying kids' lives. So I hope you can live with that.
Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public forum. Our next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report and recommendations. Dr. Lehman?
So after hearing the feedback from the previous meeting, the district has updated the job description for the Director of Athletics position to include the supervisor certificate. So it's recommended that the board approve the attached board action items A through B for the reasons of efficiency and a reorganization in the areas of supervision and administration.
Motion.
Motion to table.
Second. I'll second the table.
Mr. Gagliardi?
All right, so there's been a motion made to move the agenda item and then a motion to table the agenda item, as was the case at the last meeting. When there's a motion to table made and seconded, there is no discussion. It's simply a vote up or a vote down. If the motion to table passes, then this will not be the subject of action this evening. If the motion to table fails, then the motion remains before the board for consideration.
Okay. Ms. Allen, may we have a roll call, please?
Can you just clarify what we are voting on?
A motion to table.
Okay. Ms. Ratner?
Yes.
Ms. Belko?
No.
Ms. Alvarez?
Yes.
Ms. Bora?
No.
Ms. DePayne?
Yes.
Ms. Fabiano?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
No.
Mr. Chifano?
No.
Ms. Bierman?
No.
Ms. Skirby?
No.
So, it does not pass. It does not pass.
The motion to table does not pass.
Thank you.
All right. Can we have a,
Can we discuss this for a minute?
Sure. Ms. Boer?
Yes, thank you. I do just want to clarify, and I don't know if I can address the public, but I'll just speak out and address to the public that I want to thank the people who've come today, thank the people who came 2 weeks ago as well. And I want to explain what we're doing here as a personnel committee chair. We tabled this last week. We brought it back to the personnel committee because we heard the public. We made the changes, and we are trying to go ahead with the superintendent's recommendation for an organizational change which will benefit this town, all the students.
Excuse me, we will have order in here. You do not have the floor. Excuse me.
I wanted to make this a part of the motion discussion because the impression out there is that we're voting on a person, on somebody's job. That is not what this board is trying to do right now. We are voting.
Excuse me, we will have order in this room.
I appreciate the passion and the involvement from the public. I have been there and I've done that, and I really appreciate it. It is a matter of pride that our town can come out like this in support of any employee. And I want to make sure that when I vote right now, I am making it clear that I am voting on an organizational recommendation by the administration and not on an employee. None of us are voting on an employee right now. That is not what the ask is of us. And I am thankful for the public. I'm thankful for the public opinion. I just wanted
I'd
to
like
make
to
that
call the vote.
I would like to speak.
I'd like to call the vote.
You need a second for that, and you need a motion. It was checked, and I would like to make a comment.
All right.
This happened January 12th. It was confirmed.
Excuse me, Ms. Ratner, you don't have the floor. There was a motion on the floor to call the vote in a second.
There's still people with questions. I called the vote. We've talked.
Mr.
this about-
Gagliardi, can you please confirm legally if people still have comments for deliberation if they are allowed to speak?
Well, whether or not they're allowed to speak is up to the discretion of the chair, but right now, there's a motion on the floor to call the question, which in a sense would bring the debate to a close.
Are you looking for me to rescind my call to vote?
I'm not looking for anything.
Okay.
If there are no questions, there's a motion and a second. If the motion passes, it's a motion designed to end the debate. The question posed of me is whether or not that was proper. The motion is proper. The only relief is available through the chair.
Do we have to vote on to call the vote?
As I understand it, I don't know whether it's a procedural or substantive question. I have no idea. That Mrs. Ratner has a question.
You want to ask your question?
My question is pertaining to the agenda item and not procedural. I want to clarify that.
Okay.
May I ask the question? I know a member of the public had asked this question, and I know Dr. Lehman hadn't had the chance to answer, and I was just curious, while understanding the changes that are trying to be made, is there a reason for abolishing the position rather than modifying the position for this same exact title? That's all.
It's because it's not the same title.
So it's a change in title, change in job description, and this comes down to, this is the procedure and the process that is being recommended by the superintendent, and that is.
Excuse me, we'll have order in the room. Excuse me, honestly.
It's too dangerous.
It is getting out of control, and if we have to, we will clear the room to conduct the rest of the meeting. Okay, we need to have order in the room to conduct our meeting. Go ahead.
So organizationally, we know we're a large enough district. It's about time we have a dedicated athletic director. Those duties that would be remaining that we're pulling away from there are being reassigned to another supervisory role. And in that process, this is the route that is being taken.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we had a motion to call the question in a second. Ms. Allen, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Tufano?
Yes.
Ms. Belko?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez?
No.
Ms. Bora?
Yes.
Ms. DePayne?
No.
Ms. Fabiano?
No.
Ms. Radner?
I would like to abstain, recuse on letter A, numbers 2, 4, and 5, vote no on numbers 1 and 3, and then for letter B, recuse or abstain pertaining to the supervisor of instruction, fine and performing arts, vote no on the job description for director of athletics.
Ms. Scott?
No to A, yes to B.
Ms. Bierman?
Yes.
Ms. Skirby?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
It's a tie, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
A should tie.
Yes.
Said no to A. Right.
A should tie.
Ms. Scott voted no on A.
Voted no.
So it's a tie.
Okay, so A does not pass then. 1, 2, 3.
She said it.
5
A ties and
does not pass.
Do you want to read the vote?
Excuse me?
Well, B passes, A doesn't.
A does not pass.
Right.
B does pass.
Right.
Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is our business administrator's report.
Okay.
Do you want to explain to the public?
Oh, Ms. Allen, do you want to explain the?
The vote, A passes, or B passes and A does not pass.
Item A did not pass, and item B did pass. Our next item on the agenda is our business administrator's report.
It's recommended that board action item A be approved by consent roll call for a 10-member vote.
Motion.
Second.
Are there any questions? All right, may we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Fabiano?
Yes.
Ms. Bora?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez?
Yes.
Ms. Belko?
Yes.
Mr. Tufano?
Yes.
Ms. Ratner?
Yes.
Ms. DePayne?
Yes.
Ms. Bierman?
Yes.
Ms. Skirby?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And number 10, are you reading number 10, the resolution?
Correct.
Am I reading it?
Are you reading the resolution? All right, the next item on our agenda is number 10, resolution authorizing participation under the State Health Benefits Plan, SHP. Excuse me, we need to have order. And/or School Employees Health Benefits Program. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Are there any questions? All right.
Excuse me,
Ms. Alvarez?
Yes, when there's a tie, there has to be another vote before we move forward.
No, a tie.
Yes, Mr. I checked it.
So, well, there's a motion on the floor. Let me just address that when this roll call is over.
Okay.
There's a roll call going
Yes.
on item 10, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's finish that.
All right.
Ms.
Allen?
Skirby, can we have the lawyer speak to this, or do we not want to talk
We're
about
going
it?
to finish 10 and then go back.
Okay.
I think the 10 is the one that she wanted the lawyer to speak on. I think.
Oh, on the State Health Benefits Plan?
Yes.
Mr. Gagliardi, did you want to make a statement about that?
That's what I was talking about, yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh.
All right, so the motion on the floor right now that we're talking about relates to the State Health Benefits Plan. And I've been asked by the board to explain this agenda item. This agenda item is not making a change to the benefits program for the members of the MTEA. You can see the last 4 words for anyone with copies of the agenda. It says this is subject to collective negotiations. So the only thing that this is doing is giving the board the flexibility to pursue this if collective bargaining allows the board to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Allen, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Ratner?
We're voting on letter
Number 10.
10.
Number 10.
I will recuse from the discussion, abstain from the vote.
Okay. Ms. DePayne?
I'm going to abstain.
Abstain. Mr. Tufano?
Yes.
Ms. Bora?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez?
Abstain?
Ms. Fabiano?
Abstain.
Ms. Belko?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Bierman?
Yes.
Ms. Skirby?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And we wanted to go back to Ty.
Yeah, I think the question was very simply, explain what happened with regard to agenda items 8A and 8B, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, translated, agenda item 8A was the administrative reorganization, which would, among other things, eliminate the existing position of supervisor athletics. Agenda item 8B was approving the new job descriptions for the director of athletics and the supervisor of instruction of fine and performing arts. The vote on 8A was 5-5. That's a tie, so the motion is defeated. The vote on 8B was 6-4. That passed. So you have these job descriptions approved, but the proposed reorganization did not pass. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, the next scheduled Board of Education meeting is April 26, 2023. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. Have a good evening.